gameranx presents another episode of Before You Buy. That show where we give you some straight-up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. As usual, it's me, Jake, and today we're taking a look at Shenmue 1 and 2 HD. Finally, if you've never played these games, you can experience a bit of video game history and see what the hell everyone is talking about in this lead up to Shenmue 3, which we know is coming apparently in August 2019. I hope so. Well, the original two games from 2000 and 2001, the US releases, are here in full modernized glory, sort of. This is not really a cleaned up new way to experience a classic story. This is just a preservation and a slight modernization of the original games. And frankly, that's all many fans wanted. This series has had a cult following for a reason. And here, the ability to play the games clearly and perfectly on a modern television or console, that's exactly what you get. This footage I recorded is of me playing on the PC version, by the way. But visually, what you get is this modern resolution scaling, fresher UI, and everything is slightly sharper and colors look really great. That's it. Textures are still relatively muddy, and the game still retains the charm and look of a game from the original Dreamcast and eventually Xbox. Going into this, I only had experience with Shenmue 2. To be honest, I played it at the time and was completely blown away by it. It was so ahead of its time and really unlike anything I had ever played at the time. That's why I appreciate these games so much and had a really great time going back and replaying them because I love video games and the history and the culture surrounding them, and this is just a great little time capsule of some of that. Shenmue is honestly somewhat of a relaxing game at times, and not at all what you think it is if you've never played it. I've been banging the drum loudly for the Yakuza games recently, and this is somewhat like a precursor to that with a few key differences. Think of the Yakuza setup where it's a distinctly Japanese story and design, and then small open worlds packed with fun diversions and minigames, and a badass main character who just kicks ass. The only difference is that Shenmue is a bit more relaxed. It's barely a beat-em-up or a fighting game. The focus here is on revenge, and you step into the shoes of Ryo Hazuki to get to the bottom of his father's murder and solving a mystery involving ancient mirror artifacts, but it gets deeper, and it's not about killing everyone. It's about exploring and talking to people and learning and growing while you pursue your character's goals. And that sounds lame, but it's charming as hell if you're down for a good story that is a bit of a slow burn. The original Shenmue feels slightly smaller in scale as you only mostly explore the area of Yokusaka, Japan, but right from the get-go, you experience a highly cinematic story that is shot really well for cutscenes at the time, and there is some really damn freaking incredible music. And that goes for both games. The music and presentation is still pretty good, and generally, you're gonna wanna see where this story goes. The voice acting might scare some people away, though. Some of it is very bad, especially the side characters, but I found it really freaking funny. And for me, hearing a lot of it and laughing at it was part of the joy of playing through these. While the music sounds excellent, the voice acting still does have some compression sound to it because of the age. Again, though, this might sound dumb, but I think it adds to the charm. That's a lot of the stuff with this game. You can choose between a modern and classic control scheme, but if I'm honest, they're both a little bit clunky. If you're into the old Resident Evil games and don't mind stuff like that, though, it won't really be a problem. But you're mostly walking around and talking to people, asking them questions, and when you find people that have the right info, that's how you progress forward. It gets a little redundant, it's a little funny, it's been a meme before for a reason, but it is the name of the game, and if you're willing to open up to it, it's interesting. The game doesn't hold your hand much, and I love it to this day. Ryo takes notes in a notebook to track what the hell you're supposed to be doing, but that's really it. A lot of time, you get to find maps or just ask people for directions. This is a persistent semi-open world, though. Folks come and go, there are shops, and a day-night cycle that factors into when you do stuff, which at the time was wild. So like on top of running around and asking people a zillion questions multiple times and fighting and doing whatever, you also have to make sure you get home and go to bed. And then along with solving mysteries, there are times when you just need money. So the game has elements of being a more boring real-life simulator at times. It really kind of goes the extra mile to show you how mundane a job can be sometimes. Lifting crates at the docks or doing forklift stuff, including forklift racing after hours, are some of a variety of ways to engage with the in-game economy, not to mention all the fun stuff like you can play darts at a bar, bet in casinos, on slots, go to an arcade and play classic Sega games like Outrun, and buy and collect little capsule toys in a 50-cent machine, or arm wrestle dudes for cash, or play gambling games on the street in Shenmue 2. They all have a little bit of a different feel to them, some more full-fledged than others, and while they're not huge, it is a nice touch that you can access them from the main menu and just play them when you want. It's just little quirks like this that you just don't get in many other games. So while Yakuza does this stuff pretty hard, it still manages to feel special in Shenmue as well. But Shenmue 2 feels even stronger thanks to Ryo journeying to Hong Kong. Here, he's more of like a lonely stranger in a culture that he doesn't quite understand, and you kind of go along with him learning stuff in a big new city. Now, you'll notice I barely mentioned fighting because it doesn't happen too often, and I gotta say, even in 2018, that honestly feels kind of fresh. It's a basic fighting system loosely used from the earlier Virtua Fighter games, but a bit more freeform. You can dodge, throw, and do some combos, but really it shows its age here a lot. It's not as fun as it used to be, but I gotta say, I just do really appreciate the fact that it pops up only every so often because it makes fights feel like a big deal. Scuffles from main dudes to random drunk dudes in an alleyway feel like they have a bit more purpose sometimes. They often work into the story progression more than anything, and that's nice. The most exciting thing for me, though, was the QuickTime events. This is one of the first games to really popularize the act of watching a cutscene and hitting on-screen button prompts in time to keep the action going. In 2018, they feel relatively tame compared to something like God of War, but they're still entertaining. This was when QTEs became a big deal, and it's worth experiencing them. Following along Ryo's quest is a fun and interesting time, and ultimately, even though gameplay elements-wise it hasn't aged well, I still think this is just kind of like a relaxing playthrough with an interesting, easy-to-follow story. Some of the main characters are really charming, and you're gonna wanna wait to see where this goes. It's a pretty unique tale that feels kind of like classic cinema, but it hasn't been explored or told like this in a video game before, and it's just got some distinct Sega-ness to it of the late 90s that I really appreciate. I think if you do like video games, and more importantly, if you just like any type of video game, genres don't matter too much to you, I would say look into Shenmue HD because it's cool. It's different, it's far from perfect, it's barely even a remaster, but I love it. But of course, that's how a before you buy works. You know how it goes down by now. I give you some pros, some cons, some personal opinion, and now I want to hear yours down in the comments. Have you ever played these games? Do you have any perspective on them? Or are you one of those die-hard fans that are on the forums and in the Facebook groups? I know who you are. I want to hear from you too. Whatever you think about Shenmue the series, maybe even Shenmue 3 upcoming, let's talk about this down in the comments or on our Discord, or you can hit me up on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Jake Baldino. But if you enjoyed this video, clicking the like button does help us out. We really appreciate that. And if you're new, you should subscribe and hit that notification bell because we put out videos every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.